How much money do you need to retire? We're going to answer that question here. Yes, we're going to answer it. So, the bugle, the trumpet of retirement is being blown. You blow a trumpet. You sound the trumpet. Sound the trumpet. The PVC pipe with the green thing right there. If you ever see someone with a green painter's tape, you know they stole this from me. And then you can say, does it have a hole right there? That's mine. I should probably etch my or sketch my initials in there. Engrave my initials in there. All right, so let's talk about this. All right, so first and foremost, we're going to assume we need $75,000 a year to spend. $75,000. And you'll find that that's actually quite on the high end of retirees' expenditures. That's not very good. Let me make it bigger. That's on the high end of retiree expenditures. So, but we're still going to use it because we're high class here at Heritage Wealth Planning. We are high class YouTube channel. You know it. We're all high class. We eat trumpets and snippets and trumpets. Or, I don't know what the hell we eat. We use Gouldens. Remember those commercials? The old commercials, like, hey, we had like Mr. Burns pulling. It wasn't Mr. Burns, but the version of Mr. Burns pulling up some other guy. Say, hey, do you have any Gouldens? Because we're high class. Yeah. Stay back, you low class people. All right, we're running the high class. All right. So we need $75,000 a year. That's what we figure out. The issue is, have you actually looked at how much you need? And not just how much you need, how much you want is a better way to look at it. How much do you want to spend? Have you actually calculated how much you want? Until you count, this is what people, they get all wrapped around the axle. Like, I get all these emails like, hey, I got $1 million bucks. Think I'm okay to retire? I'm like, maybe, I don't know. Hey, I got 5 billion trillion bucks. You think I'm okay to retire? I don't know. How much income do you want to spend? Or what's your expenses going to be? Until you figure that out, everything else is, we don't know anything. We're freaking riding in the dark with blindfolds on. Man, none of my little quips are making sense today. Jeez. I woke up in the wrong side. I did wake up early though. But anyway, yeah, why would you ride around in the dark with your blinders on? That doesn't make any sense. Anyway, whatever. While you're riding around in the dark with your blinders on while you're going backwards. How about that? Yeah, that's not very good. Yeah, well, whatever. So what we do is we say, okay, we need $75,000 a year of income is what we're shooting for. We divide that by 0.05 because I use the 5% rule. Your old buddy Josh created the 5% rule. That means we need 1.5 million. All right, 1.5 million. 1.5 million bones. Why do I use the 5% rule as opposed to 4% rule? Because the 4% rule assumes your spending goes up each and every year with inflation. The interesting thing, I love the 4% rule because it showed people that what sequence of return risks. We said, hey, there's sequence of return risk. If your portfolio is down here and that's when you're retired, you might not be able to persist. She persisted for International Women's Month. She persisted. So we used a sequence of return risk. That's what Bill Bengen did. And he came up with 4%. If you retired in 1966, the maximum you could take out was 4% to ensure you didn't run out of money. And so for some reason, it just glommed on and never even said the 4% rule. Look, I think it's fantastic. It did a lot of good for the retirement planning community. The irony of all this, though, is that while your portfolio, unlike Dave Ramsey, doesn't average 12% a year over year, it fluctuates like that, well, your spending doesn't go like that either, which is the basis of the 4% rule. Your spending actually goes kind of like this, right? And that's just a fact. Again, I'm begging for any evidence otherwise. And there isn't anyway. There isn't any. And just ask your parents. If you have parents who have retired, ask them, have your spending gone up or down since you retired? All right, so it's just that simple. People say, well, what about the retirement spending smile that my man David Blanchett talks about? Well, it's just wrong. The evidence of that is limited at best. And I wrote about that in my book, Relax and Retire, Debunking Inflation Fears. The retirement spending smile, yeah, it can happen to some people, but the vast majority, it doesn't. And the evidence is minimal. All right. Anyway, so what we're doing here is we're saying we need 1.5 million with our 5% rule. All right, but then that doesn't include we're just going to do a single guy. $36,000 a year of Social Security. $3,000 a month, $36,000 a year. How many single guys do you know are spending $75,000 a year? I don't know very many, but we're going to run with this anyhow just to show you how it works. So $75,000 minus $36,000. Oh boy. I wish I could do this in my head. What's that, 39,000? I think it is. I think it's 39,000. Yes, sir. Look at that. Now we divide that by 0.05. All right, look, man, I did that in my head, right? I hope that's right, because someone said it is right. Someone said, you're not very smart. You can't even figure that out. 39,000 divided by 0.05. That's $780,000. All right, $780,000. All right, so that would be a ballpark beginning right there. You say, look, I am a single guy. I got one Social Security. I spend $75,000 a year, each and every year of my portfolio, not my portfolio spending until I'm dead. I get that right there. I need about $780,000. Now that seems silly to me because there's not very many people who are single who can be spending that kind of scratch. But if that were you, that's what I'd be comfortable with. I'd say, yeah, you need that. Now, the reality is, though, is a lot of people, we're just going to use this. Again, this is just one income, all right, just to give you an example. So if you, let me just give you a different example. Let's say you had two Social Securities, because this is very few households spend over $75,000, not just single people, very few households. But let's just say it's you and your wife, Charlotte, and you get $36,000 and she gets $18,000 for simplicity. That's $54,000, all right? So $54,000, that's $21,000 right there. Divide by 0.05. So what does that give us? So if it's a single, if it's a couple here, 21,000 divided by 0.05, we would need $420,000. 420. Absolutely doable. 100% doable. If we're going to spend $75,000 a year, basically until we die. You know what I'm saying? And we use a 5% rule because most likely your spending is going to go down. In fact, I bet this would even be too low, but we're going to run with it. Anyways, that's $420,000. Now, that's much more likely, much more doable for sure. So we'll just keep the married couple in here. We know they got $54,000 of Social Security, but they don't have $54,000 now, all right? Because we're not taking Social Security for 5 years. So we're going to need $75,000 a year for the next 5 years, because we're going to spend like drunken sailors, because we're going to enjoy our next 5 years together, our first 5 in retirement. So that's 150, 300. That means we need $375,000 is what we're going to need from our portfolio, because we don't take Social Security until later on down the road. So what if we had $1 million? All right, so we got $1 million, and we think we're going to need $375,000. We're not going to adjust this for inflation. There's no growth on anything. So no growth in the portfolio, no inflation adjustment, which means this actually makes it harder for you, because the growth of the portfolio has outperformed inflation significantly. So when people say, what about inflation? There's no growth in the portfolio either. We're actually making it even worse in my scenario, more conservative, because we're not given the benefit of a higher growth rate than inflation. So that means we're going to have $625,000 when we retire. After the first, not when we retire, when Social Security kicks in. Right? So we're going to need $75,000. We're still going to use the $75,000 threshold, but we spent down $625,000. We spent down $375,000. So we got $625,000 left. Now Social Security kicks in, and that means we still only need $21,000 net of Social. All right. Well, we already talked about that. We needed around $400,000. So we're good, man. We are good to go there. That's what you figured out. That's how you figured it out. You say, okay, so this is 5 years of living off this $1 million portfolio. That's going to drop my portfolio down to $625, because I'm going to spend $375,000. That's $75,000 a year. That's 5 years. All right. Well, we still have the same preference. Same scenario. Social Security kicks in. It's $56,000 $54,000, whatever it was, of Social Security. It takes this how much we need to spend minus our Social Security. That's $21,000. Divide that by 0.05, and it's about $400,000, give or take. We're good. That's all there is to it. Literally, it's just that simple, man. Now what I would do with this $1 million I had as I'm getting ready to retire, I'd put 4 years cash. That'd be roughly $400,000 in cash. Just talked to a guy this morning, and then $600,000 in VTI or Fidelity Balance Fund or Wellington or something like that. I like VTI. So I got 4 years of cash. That will cover these 4 years right here. Then I come back around now, I got $625,000, you give it to us, in this case, $600,000, assuming no growth. Well, that's more than I need for the $75,000 to live when Social Security kicks in. You don't have to make this more difficult than it is. The issue is, how much do you need right here? This is the issue. How much do you need? Or do you want is a better issue. Do you want? Part two, this $75,000, I'll show you in another video I'll do today, is well above the average household consumption in retirement, when even the median, well above it. So you can say, how much of that is fluff that I could cut out if things went south? $10,000? $5,000? You don't have to make this freaking harder than it needs to be. So in this case, $75,000 with $54,000 of Social Security, they need about $400,000. All right, once that Social Security kicks in. Now, again, if they only had $400,000 now and they're trying to spend $75,000 a year, I'd say before Social Security kicks in, I'd say that's not enough, because you're going to burn through your $400,000 before Social Security kicks in. And then you're just living all on Social Security, and I'll have it up there at $54,000, which I don't have any problem with, but that's significantly less than what you had in here before. So hope this helps. Love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to put the comments in the doobie-doo, and God bless. Thank you now. See ya.